This is going to make things a lot easier. I'm now wirelessly viewing myself and pulling focus to compose my A-roll. It's the YouTuber dream. Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to another video, and boy is it good to be back. It's been a couple of weeks. If most of you don't know, my Pocket 4K HDMI output was broken and I had a bunch of commercial work, so I wasn't able to send it out for a couple weeks, and that pushed everything back. And then in order to do the video that we are talking about today, of course I needed that HDMI port, so I sent it out last Wednesday. It arrived in California to Blackmagic on Friday. Obviously they don't work on the weekends, and literally I got the notification Monday evening that it was being sent back to me, and I didn't know if they were going to send me a new one or fix my old one. It turns out they did send my old one, which is totally fine. It's fixed and it's working, and that's all I cared about. So kudos to Blackmagic for the epic, literally one business day turnaround time. With that being said, let's get into today's video, which is all about the Hollyland Mars 300 wireless HDMI video transmitter. Mars 300 is the name of the product. Now, if you're like me and you've been working towards your filmmaking career for years and years, and there are these little like gear setups or rigs that you've seen the professionals have that you've always strived for, and thankfully technology is constantly at a point where the consumer end versions are getting better and cheaper. This combination of these two products that I'm using is actually $800, which I get doesn't sound like it should have cheap attached to it. However, if you look at the industry standard of Teradek and a couple other brands, that can cost anywhere from base models like $2,500 all the way up to like $5,000 or $6,000 just to transmit video signals, then you know what I'm talking about. Now, in terms of unboxings, obviously you get the transmitter and receiver, which look identical, just the different labels allow you to tell which one is which. You get 5 antennas, which is nice, so if you break one, you do have one extra. And then you get one hot shoe mount, as well as one bracket that gives you a side quarter tripod screw so that you can lay it sideways or attach it to the side of a grip, attach on whichever way you want. There are normal tripod screws on the bottom so you can have it mounted vertically on either the transmitter and receiver. I kind of wish it came with both of the brackets, but it's nice that you at least get 2 different options in the box. Now, in terms of ports on it, you have a micro USB so that you can do firmware updates in the future. And then on the transmitter, you obviously have an HDMI in, which is where you put the HDMI coming out from your camera. And then what's nice is you also have an HDMI out for looping too, if you have a secondary monitor. So if I mount my free world monitor on top of the camera, I can still monitor myself, but also transmit to the receiver and other monitors elsewhere. And then obviously on the receiver, you have an HDMI output, and you actually have 2 HDMI outputs, which is really nice. So that way, if you're in Video Village, if you're on a really pro set and you have 2 monitors, maybe one for a DP, one for a director or the client, you can have a couple monitors that it's going out to, which is really fantastic touch. Now, obviously, since this is their consumer version, there's no SDI here. You'll have to go to their Cosmo series, their more professional series, if you want SDI. But since I've moved on to the Pocket 4K and most mirrorless cameras, you're not dealing with SDI anyway. So it doesn't really matter. And then you have 2 LEDs on the top, which is always helpful. I can see them right in my line of sight right now. One says video and one says link. The link is telling you that it is indeed linked up with the receiver. So that way, if you are very far apart, either the receiver end or the transmitter, both people can see that to make sure that it is linked up properly. It will be green. When you first turn them on, it is a very slow red pulsing, and then you press and hold the pair button for about 10 or 15 seconds. You have to hold it quite a bit. and then it will start flashing quickly. And you do that to both the transmitter and receivers. You don't have to do it at the same time, which is nice. So if one is, a decent distance, you can do one, walk over to the other. And then once they're both blinking fast, then they will find each other. It takes about 30 seconds or so. I noticed it took probably those 30 seconds to a minute for the first time setting it up. Now when I turn them on, they link up probably within 15 or so seconds, which is really nice. And then the top light, which always has this warm yellow tone to it, is the video light, and that is just letting you know that is indeed transmitting a video signal from a camera. So if that light ever goes out, something has happened. Maybe one of them has lost battery power, or the HDMI got ripped out or loose or whatever, but at least it lets you know that it is not transmitting video signal anymore. And then I gotta give a little props to the power button. Super small detail, but I really love the power switch. And I gotta say, all the buttons on here, from the rubber pairing button to the power switch, feel very nice and tactile. And so if you're like me and you care about the buttons, you'll be happy here. And then of course, with wireless video transmitters, the biggest spec of all is the latency. Now, this is a consumer product. Again, it is $500. The biggest difference between this and the higher end Cosmo series that Hollyland makes and other brands is that latency. There's around 50 milliseconds, which when you're looking at them side by side, if you hold your camera and the receiver with the whatever monitor you're going to, you definitely can see that delay. If you were doing very intense action and someone had to pull focus, that's where I can definitely see you start to know the difference. But for someone like me who does a lot of narrative stuff and even a lot of car videos, I don't think that it's going to be an issue whatsoever. Now, as the name kind of suggests, the Mars 300 is a 300-foot range is what they say. Now, I've watched a lot of videos. I don't have one of those foot walker things, but I've definitely gone as far as, all the way around my house and a little bit outside, and it completely works fine through walls in a 1,100 or so square foot house. So yep, that's about the distance. So that's a good 300 feet. I saw another reviewer who was in an open field, and he got just over 600 feet before the transmitter signal cut out. So again, in any normal scenario, I can't imagine being more than 300 or 400 feet away from something. But if that's important to you, now you know. Now, if you're sitting there and you're thinking, okay, sure, this all sounds cool and everything, and it's great that there's a product on the market that's finally in a much better price point than some others, you may still be asking, what sort of use cases would this have? Especially if you're not on a big film set with an entire crew. But what about if you are a YouTuber or a content creator that is just filming by yourself? Well, I'll tell you what. It is still very much helpful. Again, if you reference the very first couple seconds of this video, you saw me sitting here and literally being able to wirelessly follow focus with the Nucleus Nano from Tilta, and then see myself, of course. What I used to have to do is, I could flip the monitor on over, but if you are like me and you have a smaller monitor, sometimes it's hard to see. And then you definitely can't see if you're in focus or not unless you have fantastic focus peaking or zoom in or something like that. But then I used to take my boom mic, which is right here, and I'd sit down wherever I'm gonna sit. I'd put the mic about where my nose or face was, and then I'd go back to the camera and I'd focus it on that, or you'd have to ask, Michelle or whoever to grab focus for me. It was very annoying, and honestly, it held back a lot of times of me filming myself just because of those extra hurdles you have to get just to frame yourself up. Another great use case is everyone is a huge fan of doing top-down shots or shots where you're putting the camera in extreme high and low places, and especially us Pocket 4K users who don't have any sort of tilting screen. You either have to get on a ladder or lay on the ground to see what your camera's seeing, and now you can definitely fix that. So before I even started recording this video, I pretty much sat here for like 15 minutes just doing this, literally just pulling focus. Again, it's just really cool because if you're like me, you're always trying to up your production value. You always want, you know, the ability to get the coolest looking shots, but you don't always have $5,000 or $10,000 just to do on wireless monitoring and, you know, focusing. You're still focused on getting a good camera, good lenses, and a million batteries. But now that there's a solution that exists that's under $1,000, and you know, if you just want one or the other, again, these are made by different companies. So if you just want a wireless HDMI transmitter, then it's literally half of $1,000, $500. It's a very good product to have. And now that I've had it, even just for a short while, I can definitely tell it's one of those things that I'll never want to be on set without again. So again, thanks so much to Hollyland-Tech for sending the Mars 300 my way. Definitely going to be used a lot more. If you guys are interested in checking out more or picking up one yourself, check out the link in the description. I'll also link the Nucleus Nano down there. But yeah, until next time, guys, I'm just going to be messing with focus here. You guys continue watching other videos, and yeah, I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. I'm probably giving people sicknesses. Okay, sorry. There it is. I'm leaving it. I'm done. I'm not touching it. Okay, one more time.